What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm gonna go over the trades that we took today inside the Discord, as well as the game plan going into tomorrow. And man, today, absolutely textbook day. If you guys watched my video from yesterday, I gave you guys the exact game plan on what to look for, and if you followed exactly what I looked for, you would have been paid big time today. So as you guys know, on the put side here, the puts had the trend. The bears had the trend. Why? Because this 30-minute chart here on the put side is crossed. So 10 SMA is above the 50. That means the bears have the trend. Obviously, we pumped a lot overnight and ended today because obviously the chart was big extended. We dropped a ton on Friday, and pullback was definitely in the works, and reasonable to get that. So we ended up getting the pullback here to the 50 SMA. And I told you guys, if we get this pullback to the 50, calls are most likely going to be crossed, and what you want to look for from that point is a negative cross on the 0DT chart to go short. And that's exactly what we did. So we pulled the 0DT chart on the call side. I actually took 2 entries at this. So the first time I actually got stopped out on this for break even, and then, or not break even, what am I saying, break even. I ended up taking a loss on this on smaller size on this little move down in here. I'm going to try to find the screenshot of exactly what it looked like, but it definitely wasn't the best looking in the world, but I did give it a go on lighter size, and that's exactly why I went lighter, because it was a little extended from the 50, so the risk was a bit larger on it. If I could find this, what it looked like, but pretty much took an entry right around here, and then on this pullback I got out, and then I waited for it to cross back negative because the chart ended up opening bad where this 10 SMA was sloped up. So yeah, this is exactly what happened. So here's the screenshot of the negative cross. This wasn't clean at all, but I think at 10:30 we took this. Yeah, at 10:30 we took this as one candle after this. So this is kind of what it looked like. But the next candle obviously went below the 50, and we crossed down. So risk was a bit high in this because we were far from the 50. So that's why I went lighter size on this. So loss really wasn't much. Exited on this candle open at 10:35, and this is what the chart looked like at 10:35. So we go back in here, you can see this 10 SMA is sloped up. I don't like the look of that at all, and it actually never crossed negative on this chart. The SMAs were really tight, and then this pop on this candle ended up pushing the 10 SMA up. So I got out, and I waited for the negative cross to happen again. So if we look here, this is where I entered again. This is a really good entry. I was really confident in this. Risk on this is super tight because we are really close to the 50 here. 10 SMA crossed below the 50, and we had the 50 turning down, which is a really good sign that this is going to drop on these contracts. And yeah, we entered there, and you can see the drop that we got doesn't look like a crazy drop, but on NQ this was almost 100 points. That was up, I think, like 97 points to be exact. And that's where once I got into that like 90-point range, I trimmed a good chunk off once we started to not really fall through to the downside anymore. And yeah, I trimmed half at 60, and then I took more off at around like 85, 90 points, and then I got stop break even on the small runners that I had. So yeah, I mean, that's the only trade you needed for the day. Really the only other trade you could have taken would have been a put cross, which we never got. You can see on the call side, calls end up crossing here, gave a little bit of a move, but obviously I'm not taking this because we have been sitting at this 30-minute 50 pretty much all day. So I didn't really want to take this call across when we're around that key support on the puts. Just not a good trade to take. Yeah, could it work out? It could, but is that a trade you want to be taking? Definitely not. So that wasn't a trade that I did take. You could have taken this call across. This was a valid trade, I will say. Didn't end up playing out, a little bit late in the day, but we did get this call across here in the afternoon. Right up in here, we end up crossing 10 above the 50, and it was up like 30 points because I was watching it as the entry was given. Obviously, this one you wouldn't have entered right at the SMA cross. This would have been you would have gone in this a little bit early just because it looked really good. So I'm gonna try and find the screenshot of where I would have entered if I did take this. So yeah, like 225 would be the entry point. More so, like, I mean, 220 for like a riskier entry, but 225 would have been the candle to take your entry on. So the open of or the closure of this candle was your entry. It ripped like 30 points, but obviously it came back down, and once we got near this 50, I would have stopped out because I mean, if it once we start to crack below that 50, I would just exit. You would have been out right around break even. If you held a little bit longer until we actually broke the 50, you probably would have lost like 10 to 20 points. So even if you did take that, it wasn't much of a loss. And this is why I like to just take one good trade for the day and pack it up at that, because I don't want to be giving back gains. I don't care if the setup is really good. Most of the times I'm looking for one really good trade that we do, get a move on, and then just move, like, pack it up at that. When you catch 100 points on like NQ, that is plenty for the day. You don't need to be, throwing more risk on the table to end up giving that back for the day. So we got our one good trade for the day. I told Discord I was most likely done, and that was that. So those were the trade opportunities. I mean, really wasn't much to, take besides those two entries. I mean, we did. So again, another weird kind of cross that happened here. This chart did go negative, and you're probably like, why didn't you take this? 30-minute chart was crossed, but we were in a weird spot in the afternoon on the 30-minute chart because we were kind of in between. Like, the market doesn't really know what it wants to do. It just want to hold the trend or just want to cross negative on the 30-minute. And I'm going to pull up the screenshot of what we looked like around that time. So this is what the 30-minute chart looked like. So if we look like this, all right, if we look like this on the 30-minute chart on the puts, 10 SMAs crossing below the 50, and the 0DT calls are going negative, this isn't, that's not a trade I want to be taking, because the higher time frame here on the 30-minute isn't aligned with that 0DT direction. So this negative cross wasn't one I would have taken. Wasn't a good setup. 30-minute chart ugly, and at that point, when the 30-minute chart kind of is in between on what it wants to do, there's really no point to be tossing trades on the table. If anything, like I said, the call cross was the way better trade to take because of that 30-minute chart losing the 50 and looked like it was going to cross negative. So even though it didn't play out, the call cross was 100% the better trade to take there, and this wasn't a trade I would even take in the first place. And the reason we took it back in here is because we were all the way to the left side of this chart on the put side. So if we pull up the 30-minute one more time, we were all the way over here. So we were like way above the 50, or not way above it, but we were above the 50 down in here when that negative cross happened on the calls. We were kind of already breaking below the 50 and looking to cross negative. So that wasn't a trade I would have taken. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the day. Going into tomorrow, obviously right now the market is trying to flip neutral. I wouldn't say 100% that we're out of the woods yet on the bear side, because a gap down could easily change this and get us back above the 50. So pretty much going into tomorrow, there's gonna be two sides to play like always. So if we get a gap down tomorrow and we get back above the 10 to 50, you're going to be looking for a 0DT put cross or even a negative cross on calls. But I mean, if we do get a significant gap down, then that negative cross probably won't even be a trade you're going to be taking, because there's going to be such an extended move from where the SMAs are and where prices, and at that point you're most likely just going to be looking for a put cross. And then if we do rip tomorrow, then this 10 SMA is going to cross below the 50. Bears are going to lose the trend, and also we're probably going to cross negative on the 1 hour here. But the higher time frames are a little bit weird on this, because if we go on the call side real quick on the weeklies, the 4 hour chart is just crossing negative here, and then also we're at this daily 50 as well. So we're kind of in a weird spot, because there's a chance this does still hold, but then a chance it still goes negative. So these higher time frames aren't really giving me much direction on what's going on. Usually when we get these negative crosses on the higher time frames, that's not a good thing. So I really wouldn't mind if the Bears did get this trend back. It would make it pretty easy, and I'd expect a pretty hefty downside move with this chart going negative, and then eventually this daily chart is going to end up crossing negative if the Bears could, slam us lower. So, like I said, if we do obviously rip tomorrow, then 0DT call cross will be on the table, because Bears are going to lose this trend here on the 30-minute. Like I said, 10 SMA is going to cross below the 50, and that will push us higher, and call cross will be the trade to take tomorrow if we do pump. So yeah, those are the trades you want to be looking for. Also, a 10 SMA reclaim could be on the table tomorrow, since we will be neutral. So that's for the upside play. 10 SMA reclaim on the call side after the initial call cross we get a move from. So yeah, most likely if we do get that call cross, though, that's gonna be the only trade that I do take for the day. I'm just looking for one really good trade, and that will be that. And 50 points, 50 to like 80 points on a cross typically, especially with how we are. I mean, tomorrow, it doesn't matter what side we take a trade off of, I'm going to be expecting more than 50 points, just because we have the 30-minute chart in sync. So we have this chart crossing negative, on the 30-minute, that favors the upside. And, I'd be expecting a pretty solid move if we get the 0DT cross. And then the same thing goes with the downside. If the Bears hold the trend, we get back above the 10 to 50, I'd be expecting a really solid move out of the put cross. So any sort of cross tomorrow, I'd be expecting a really good move out of. 50 to 60 points, I'll trim half, and then I will hold the remainder for closer to 100 points in profit, and kind of just trim along the way from like once I get to like 70, 80, take maybe more off, and then once I get to like 90 to 100, take the remainder off. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the game plan going into tomorrow when it comes to SPY. We ended up closing out ABAT today. This is an absolutely insane move on it. If you guys remember last video, I went over this. We took this swing, and today it was up 40 something percent at the peak, but I did sell this right off open because it gapped up like 15%. So yeah, I mean, those went like 300 some percent for the October 17th, and then I also had November's that went 130%. Who knows how much those were up at the peak? Probably close to 1,000% on the October 17th ones, but that was a really good swing trade. And then I also took Oracle and ACHR today for a small loss. I just, with how SPY is, I really don't know what direction we're going to go, because like I said, those higher time frames on the weeklies are, you know, kind of a concern when it comes to the upside and for the bulls, because we're crossing negative on the 4 hour and the daily chart lost to 50. I kind of want to just wait around and see where we go from here before taking any long entries on individual names. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to, you know, our game plan for tomorrow and what we did today. So if you guys enjoyed, drop a sub. If you guys want to learn, join the Discord down below. That's where I posted these trades for the day, and that's where I'm at all day, every day. But yeah, that's all I got. I'm out. Peace.